The American Revolution was one of the great political acts of the Enlightenment period. And the Declaration of Independence, signed on July 4th of 1776, was the definitive statement of the Revolution's ideology, a synthesis of Lockean natural rights, of republicanism, of English constitutionalism. The Declaration of Independence, as an ideological statement of the values of the rebels, evoked a strong response in the mother country. And one of the strongest and most elaborate rebuttals to the Declaration of Independence was published by a man named John Lind. And it contained a lengthy rebuttal, some 100 pages, detailing, point by point, why the colonists' list of grievances against the British Crown were absurd and baseless. At the end of this rebuttal to the Declaration of Independence, there was a short article that was in fact written by a man named Jeremy Bentham, then a very young man. And it was a sort of appendix, a further note rebutting the Declaration. Just a few pages. And these few pages are devoted to the preamble. In fact, they come at the end of this pamphlet rebutting the Declaration, giving a British point of view of the colonists and their rebellion. And in this, Jeremy Bentham addresses himself to the preamble. And in fact, he says that the preamble he's only dealing with now and shortly because the preamble was hardly worth noticing. Now, there's something ironic to that because today it's virtually the only part of the Declaration that anyone has memorized or that is easily recognized. Nobody remembers the grievances against the Crown, and all remember the ringing words of the preamble that declare rights endowed by their Creator, pursuit of happiness. These are the famous phrases of the Declaration. But this rebuttal says this is hardly worth noticing at all. And it says the political thoughts of these modern Americans are no more worth noticing than the thoughts of their ancestors on witchcraft, talking about the Salem witch trials. He said they're both absurd and equally worthy of our taking seriously. But he says they're both as nefarious and harmful. Jeremy Bentham, claiming that the ideas embodied in the preamble of the Declaration are absurd and hardly worth noticing, because he would come to be the primary exponent of a new philosophical system, what he would give the name of utilitarianism, one of the most important offspring of the Enlightenment, a way of thinking about the nature of law and justice that is systematized by Jeremy Bentham. And it's no accident that he looks at the Declaration of Independence and places very little value in its ideas of natural rights. Bentham would claim that rights are nonsense on stilts. And all throughout his career, he would maintain this, that rights are lofty language for nonsense. He would place no value in the idea of republicanism, in the idea of a constitutional order that was rooted in legal tradition. Jeremy Bentham would articulate a political philosophy that was to be based on the cool, rational calculation of utility. What is the greatest good? What act or rule will create the greatest happiness for the greatest number? And so there's something symbolic about the opposition of Bentham to the ideas of the Declaration, because the Declaration embodies a certain set of Enlightenment trends. But Bentham's philosophy will give voice to a different synthesis, a different formulation of Enlightenment ideas. A further irony is that Bentham, in his rebuttal, arrogantly claimed it is one thing to declare independence and another to make it happen. And he predicts that shortly the American rebels will be subdued and brought back under the rule of the British Crown. In that he was wrong, but his philosophy of utilitarianism would prove hugely influential as a species of Enlightenment thought that straddles the 18th century Enlightenment that embodies many of its most fundamental problems, and that at the same time begins to point towards a new age, the age of capitalism, the age of markets. And so over these next few lessons, we explore the historical roots of utilitarianism and its destiny as a system of thinking about law and justice.